What is up, people? This your boy DJ, and I'm coming at you again from the Casual Corner with another casual opinion. This time, going over some issues, well, ongoing issue with fighting games in general, and that's trying to properly balance said fighting game or fighting games in general, right? Of course, trying to find that middle ground between fun and fairness can be a bit tricky, especially with the amount of players you're trying to appeal to. You got two sides. Of course, is always going to be the casual audience and the pro players, or not even pro players, but high level players as well. But there's been an ongoing issue with that. That's why in the past they would try to, let's say, patch certain characters or patch mechanics in the game or whatnot. Like, for instance, back in the day, you had games like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, right? And a game like that, it was fun as hell. A lot of pro players like that shit. I love that game as well, but was the game balanced? Hell no. And a lot of the OG players, or pro players, they love that game too, because they like broken stuff. Let's just say what pro players or high level players find fun differentiates from what casual players find fun. Like, some players like just in fighting games in general, they like the back and forth between themselves and their opponent and the cool martial arts or whatever, while the high level and or pro players, all they care about, you could say, mostly winning, right? Some, like the pro players, that's kind of like their livelihood. So the easier time they have winning against an opponent, the better. So of course, and also doing long flashy combos, that's another thing too. And the easier it is to attain that, the better off they are. That's why games like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which damn near every character had an infinite, they love those games. And of course, having unbalanced characters also is a problem too. That was back in the day, like Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, of course, is another one. And this one had, characters like Dark Phoenix, Doctor Doom, etc. And all these versus games back in the day, this isn't just those games, but all fighting games had this problem. Some more major than others, where a meta starts to develop, and usually what the meta is basically everybody doing the same thing. Just to simplify that, everybody's playing the same character, using the same assists, doing the same strategies, whatever. Everybody's doing it because they know that's the path of least resistance to getting that victory, right? And the stronger the meta is in a particular fighting game, or shit, this applies to any game in general that has multiplayer, but the stronger the meta, the more unbalanced it is. Like, some games, the meta isn't as apparent, or maybe the meta is there, but in order to use these characters, you have to be able to play the character. Like, the character's not, like, for instance, in Tekken, you could use Jin or Kaz or Heihachi, but those characters aren't necessarily easy to play. So less skilled players, even though that might be the meta for tournament play, a casual player will not use those characters, right? So, that's where that whole pro player, casual player mindset comes into play. What a pro player perspective of a fighting game may not be the same for casuals. And of course, you got your high level players too that don't go to tournaments, that follow these pro players and all that. So they follow the pro player mindset. They could be anywhere. But yeah, what's happening now is these game developers are starting to realize that some of these casuals are having a hard time dealing with these high level players, pro players, whatever, and they're starting to play the games less. And of course, now that these fighting games are becoming more popular and getting recognized by esports and all this other stuff, it's bringing in more money, and more money means more games, and that's good. That's a win-win for everyone. So what they're gonna do is, of course, appeal to the larger fan base, which is the casual fan base. So what do? They put in more features to allow casuals to play with the high level players. You know, high level players would gatekeep against casuals, troll and smurf, and do all this other nonsense to push away the casual audience for various reasons or whatnot. But you know, these developers are starting to catch on to that, so they're starting to put in features in these games that will let casuals effectively play with the high level players. In some instances, that if done properly, that's okay, but there are just some things that do not work, right? So of course, balancing characters to make it so that any character is viable, that's good. You want that to happen. But of course, with that being said, not all characters are going to be equal. And, you know, there are going to be characters that are stronger than others just based on what their martial art style is, or maybe lore might be a driving factor in what moves they have, whatever. Some characters just aren't going to be as strong as others, right? So there's that to consider. But when they start putting in features like too many comeback mechanics, and or just making characters that are just overly strong for no reason, that can be a problem. For example, like let's look at Tekken 7. When Leroy was dropped, not only was the character super easy to use, but his damage output was way too high, to the point where in the tournament that preceded his not preceded, but came after his announce or his release, everybody was using them because, of course, like I said, when it comes to the meta, path of least resistance, high level players and pro players alike are going to use that, especially when there's a money involved or some type of prize to be won, you know what I'm saying? So but that's not so bad, because out of all the fighting games I've ever played, I played a lot of fight games over the years, Tekken happens to be one of the most balanced of all the fighting games. Whereas when you see games like Mortal Kombat or Injustice, like NRS games, they tend to fall in the bottom of the popular, the top three, right? The big three. Like Mortal Kombat, I don't know what it is with them games, but they love zoning. And every character is either going to have some type of spammy, scrubby projectile and or teleport attached to them, or something or another. I don't know what it is about that game. It's just a scrubby game altogether. And of course, I know if you're in the fighting game community or a part of it, you've probably seen the whole patch notes with following the Mortal Kombat 1 tournament that just finished not too long ago. Cyrus got nerfed to the ground, but of course, reason for that is, like I said before, you know, they're trying to appeal to casuals and make the game fun and fair, I guess. So they saw the meta. The meta was everybody was using a certain cameo, Cyrax. So they nerfed them into the dirt. And a lot of people didn't like that, but that's how that goes when you're trying to make a game fair and fun, you know, find that middle ground. These are things that will happen. Everybody doing the same thing, that's not the vision that the developers wanted. They wanted everybody to find their own way to victory, I guess, and also give everybody a fair chance to play, right? So that's just how that goes. Some games that did not follow that code and ended up falling off the wayside, of course. Soul Calibur 6, out of all the fighting games, like I said, I played, and this late day, Soul Calibur 6 was one of the most broken of them all. Like characters are unbalanced as hell. I guess the way in that game they figured like if every character was broken, the game itself would balance itself out. I guess I don't if that makes sense. I don't know, but that game was really toxic and like, but of course, some characters were more broken than others or more unbalanced. For instance, you have Nightmare, the poster boy for the Soul Calibur franchise. He's a pretty big character, fights with like an ultra great sword, Soul Edge. He's highly mobile, very fast character, stances and all that good stuff. Very large range of attack. What else we got here? Auto parry moves, and also he has a move that from auto parry that allows him to enter a state where he can have access to his soul charge attacks without using meter, right? So that's a big thing, and of course this game has meter that you use to access super moves like enhanced super, or not supers but special moves. But on the other side of that spectrum, you have a character like Wang or Wang, I think I'm saying his name correctly, but Yang Tsung's mentor, right? So this character, in order to have access to a third of his move list, he has to sacrifice his starting round health. So that's just an example of how busted this game was. Of course, after a while the player base for that game dropped off. It was fun at first because we hadn't had a Soul Calibur in a long time. It's a weapon-based fighting game, and those type of games, other than like Samurai Showdown and Bushido Blade Bushido Blade, that game is gone now. But the only other one was Samurai Showdown, and that fell out of favor because it wasn't easy and people didn't like how that game played, so that died off too. But yeah, people got tired of the scrubbiness and unbalanced nature of the game, so they stopped playing it. Other games kind of like that is, Dragon Ball FighterZ was a very popular fighting game, and over time it kind of dropped off as well, lost the hype. And even more so, DNF Duel, another cool ass game. I never got the chance to play it, but I did play the game that is based off of, Dungeon Fighter Online. And the game is pretty cool. Characters are cool, classes and all that. If you never played Dungeon Fighter Online, it's on PC. It's a PC game. It's pretty cool. If you like the 2D side scroller beat 'em up games, it's kind of like what it was with RPG aspect. It's very fun. They actually got some other spin-off games coming. Well, I don't know if they're coming later down the road, but they're made in the vein of a third-person action adventure RPG type shit. It look pretty good, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, back on topic. Those games died off because of how scrubby they were and unbalanced. So trying to find that middle ground is very important, but doing it in a way that it doesn't allow people like who don't know how to play the game to beat people who do. Cause that's another thing about Soul Calibur 6 I found like crazy. Those character Sung Mina, right? She fights with a halberd. I never knew how to play this character whatsoever, but because of how scrubby and unbroken the character was, my F rank, they have ranks in the game. Rank mode. I'll go on rank, and my Sung Mina was F rank, and because of how busted the character was, I little to no practice whatsoever allowed me to keep up with people that were way above my station, like B, A rank in that game. All by just spamming like 3-4 moves over and over and over again. No combos, no nothing. I just spammed these 3 to 4 moves over and over again, and it carried me all the way up to like B, C plus rank and up. I was able to contend with people that played the game, knew more about the game, way better than I did. So trying to find that perfect balance without making the game too scrubby, it can be it can be taxing, hard to do, but it can be done. And Tekken, out of all the games, Tekken has proven to be the most balanced of them all. Yeah, there's, like I said before, there's some characters are going to be stronger than others, but in Tekken, that margin of difference isn't that much. You can still get the edge just based on skill alone. I put it like this: in Tekken, you're not just gonna pick up a character and beat someone that knows how to play the game or been playing the game a lot longer than you. That's just not happening. Whereas in games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, the likelihood of that happening is a lot higher, especially with auto combos being a thing now. So yeah, but that's all I have to say. Also, another thing, just pin on the back of this, I'll not make this video too long, but another thing developers could do to help with their casual fan base or player base, since a lot of casual players don't, they just play for fun. I view myself as a casual player, so we don't want to put too much time into having to deal with more of the toxic side of these games. So what they could do is implement a block list. And I know some people might disagree with this. They're like, hey, they could use that to cheat and boost their ranks and stuff. Oh, here's the thing: people already cheat in the game. In fact, we've already seen posts of people on Street Fighter cheating using script bots and stuff, especially on the PC. People do this all the time, or they'll boost with their friends, find each other in ranked and stuff. This is without the block list, keep in mind. So having a block list is not going to change that. And I know Street Fighter has one, but they have a limited slot list. And with the fact that people have like alternate accounts, some people have up to a number of 10 accounts. They could have an account for every character in the game. So just having a finite amount of space slots for blocking people just don't cut it. And that could also help with, instead of just putting all these comeback mechanics in game to help out casual players, that could be the solution for that. Just giving casual players the ability to not have to play against the more higher level players or the sweaty players, right? Some people just play these games for fun, and that's all it is for them. So, but that's just a thought. Like I said, this is an opinion I had on this topic. I'm not a game developer by any means, but I have played a lot of fighting games, so that's where this opinion is based off of. Again, everybody has their opinions, and if you have your own opinion or whatever, feel free to post that in the comment section. We can read up and share our opinions on this matter. But other than that, thank you for stopping by. If you like what you're hearing, just like and subscribe, and we can keep it going. Other than that, peace out.